Hey everyone, Ashley here, and I'm going to be explaining to you a simple CRUD application. Now, here's how our CRUD application is going to be working. If you're not interested in the explanation, you can skip ahead to the timeline in this video. However, this is how it's going to be functioning. Our user is going to click Add. Essentially, all the classes at play within the first interaction are these. We have these templates, which we can have a look at here. These are the templates: add base, edit, and select. And when the user clicks add movie, it's going to render add.html, and then they're going to fill and submit the form. And once they've submitted the form, what's going to go through is this movies.title, and then the movie form validates, and if the form is okay, it's going to submit what was submitted, the movie title, to the database of the API. Else it's going to come back to add.html. However, if this is successful, if all this is successful, and it's gone through the database API, then it's found this movie title, it's going to render a list, results.list, and then this is going to be shown in the selected HTML, where the user is going to be given an option to select. And then when the user, the actor, selects a movie from the result list, I'm going to pass in the movie ID into this endpoint. So once the user selected a movie and now we know the movie ID that they want, we're going to now know the title, year, description, and movie URL, which are going to be passed into our database. And this is 4 out of 7 roles, because we have these 7 roles. 4 out of 7 roles will be submitted into our database at this point. And then after doing this, we're going to be redirected to this endpoint called edit, where we're going to get edit.html, and this is where the actor again fills and submits another form for the movie rating and movie review on the movie rate movie form. Okay, and the form is going to be validated. If the form is okay, we're going to commit movie rating, movie review, which now makes 6 out of 7 columns of our table filled, which will come back. Essentially, what I'm talking about is 6 out of 7. 6 out of 7. So we had done 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll have these. We'll just have those, okay? So now they'll be committed. Once they're committed, then we're going to be redirected to index.html. If this doesn't work, then we're going to be rendered back to edit.html, pretty much. Okay, so if you already knew this, please skip ahead to checkpoint 350. Now, this is how we're going to be making our database. Before we make our database, what we want to do is we want to create a models.py file. We've got our main.py, which I normally like to refactor and name app.py. Go ahead and name it app.py. And we also have our forms, which is where we're going to declare our forms. Our models.py is where we're going to declare our tables, which are going to be within our database, which you'll see shortly. Now, here's how we make our database. We're going to be using Flask-SQLAlchemy. So we're going to import SQLAlchemy, object relational mapping, and declarative base. We're going to declare this class. All this is within the documentation for Flask-SQLAlchemy. And then we're going to create our table. Our table is going to be the class name of our table is going to be movie, which is going to inherit from a superclass, which is SQLAlchemy. This could be written as SQLAlchemy.model, but we've put it in a variable, so db.model, And now you can name your table movies. And these are all the columns that you're going to have within your table, similar to an Excel sheet. Now I've given my column, db.column. This column is going to have just integers and it's a primary key, which means this. So, in dictionaries, we normally work with the key value pair. So this is a primary key. This is like the foundation key. It's going to be indigenous to this table. Okay, my ID is going to be indigenous to this table and only will hold integers. And we've created one for the title, and we've said it's going to be unique and it's not nullable. Very important information. Nullable means it cannot be left empty. Now, very, very cautious about how you name this initially, because make sure you use nullable when it's applicable. Otherwise, you will have to migrate your database or delete it. Don't do it. Okay, so I know for a fact that we're going to get these from our API. Okay, however, I know that these will be ones that we are going to get as we go. So remember, there's 4 out of 7 columns. These are the ones that we're going to get as we go. So I'm going to say nullable, true. Yes, you can leave it to be nullable. Now, within your app, now you want to create a new directory called instance, because your database is going to be an instance of SQLAlchemy. All right. Now you go back to your app.py. So let's put our models.py over here. You go back to your app.py and you've imported your stuff. Actually, we don't need this here. This should actually be in this area, right? And then actually we don't need all this. All right. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to then configure our database. I've already done so. The code for configuring a database, in fact, we're going to import this model. We're going to import this module. So we're going to say from models import database and movie. All right. So now we're going to configure our database. The only part that we need to pay attention to is this area. So app.config SQLAlchemy database URI, and here you can name it whatever you like. You can name it anything really. The movies DB if you like. The movies DB. Name it whatever you like, and then initialize the app. Now to create the database, you're then going to have to we're then going to use with app.context. We're going to use with app.create context create all. Okay. Now once you run this code, it's then going to give you an instance of the database within your instance folder, like so. Okay. Now if you go back and just close this and open it, voila, you have your movies database there waiting for you. Now you can even view what's in your database to verify that it goes with your models.py. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my DB viewer, and actually I need to just copy this path, and I'm going to find this database, open a database. I put it, oopsie, I put in this database, and I'll go to my instance, then open it. Now if you have a look at browse data, this is exactly what you will have created. Okay, ID, table, everything side by side. Okay, this is going to be your database. Next thing that we want to do is add data into our database. Most of the data we're going to be getting it from our API, but now we have to define a route. So we're going to define an endpoint. We're going to say at app.route. Sorry. There we go. And then we're going to define add movie. Now, in add movie, we want to return what we want to return is this template. Okay, so once we interact with this endpoint, we want to return add movie.html. Now, add movie.html, according to our diagram, has a form because it fills form and submits form, and then passes in the title. So essentially, we're going to create that form. Now, where we're going to create that form, we're going to create it in our forms.py. So we're done with our models.py, so we can always cover it here. And what we're going to do is create our form, similar to how we would create our our tables. We're going to create our forms. Now, here's how we do it. So essentially, we're going to import Flask-WTF, WTF forms, string field, submit field, text area field, and the validators that go with it. Now, the first form that we want to do is the one for finding a movie. So we're going to say class find movie form. Yeah, this is right. So we're going to say find movie form, which is going to inherit from the superclass Flask form. The title is the title. We're going to have a title, the label of this validator, field entry required, and then we're going to submit this. Okay. Now, let's just create all forms that we have. Actually, let's from forms import this. Okay. And now we're going to say form is equal to find movie form, which is the class. And then we're going to pass this form into, yeah, there we go. Form is equal to form. All right, perfect. So we've said once you access this route, you're going to get this form. All right, perfect. So now this is what's going to happen in our index.html. Let's have a look. Okay, unfortunately, this button doesn't work. And here's why it's not working. So in our index.html, we can actually utilize this space if we like. There's plenty of space. I'm going to keep them all open. So in our index.html, we have this card that we saw interacting with our user interface. Here, we have this card. And then we have this button, which is going to be this button for add movie. So essentially, we can actually replace this if we like and say URL _ for add. What am I doing? URL for add _ movie. All right. And then now we want to set URL for add movie. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. Now it's going to interact with the URL for add movie. Okay, it's going to interact with the URL for add movie. Let's have a look. There we go. Template not found. Perfect. At least it's working. So now, what is this saying? It's saying the template not found. Add.html, not add. Try that again. Hopefully it works this time. Let's see. Perfect. Now we've gone to another template. All right. In this template called add.html, we now need to have a form. We want this form to show up. So essentially what we're going to do is, let's open add.html since we're done with this. Actually, let's just do this. I'm going to take add.html, and that's what's going to go up here. Yeah, we can use all the space we like. So this is add.html, and let's see how we can change this. So essentially, let's open our app.py. There we go. So we've passed in this form. Now we want this form to come through to this end, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a very simple MVP method where you can render a form without having to type too much. So we've said add movie there, and we have used from Bootstrap 4 import render form, and then all you just have to just say render form, the name of the form, no validate true, and you'll find that the form will be there. Very quick. This isn't really the ideal way of making forms. However, for back-end purposes, this is how you do it. And then when you click, there you go. Nicely formatted with just one line of code. Okay, that's done. So now we've said if, so now we've said we've passed in our form. It's going to add form. Now what we want to do is we want this interaction where if I fill in something, yeah, it should do something. Okay, so if I fill in, what should happen actually? So I'm in HTML fill and submit. It should validate my form, right? And then submit it to the movie database. Okay, so now we want to say if form dot validate on submit, right? Essentially, I'm using Copilot, so the APA part of it, I'm not very keen on explaining right now for the sake of time. However, I am using API the movie database if you want to follow along, and this is how I used it. Okay. However, if form.validate and submit, form movie.title, I got the title. We're gonna get the title of what they've entered, which is over here. So I'm gonna type in the movie title, and then we get the title. All right, and then we're going to get the response, right, in a JSON file. And to make it easier to view all this, you can always use a JSON viewer. If you type JSON viewer on your browser, you can find a JSON viewer which can help you view all this data, which is what I used. And you can print out the data and then render template select.html, because according to our diagram, after it's interacted with the movie, it's going to render this template, which is going to have a result underscore list. All right, so let's do that. Let's do exactly that. Actually, there's something I would like to change here. It's going to print the data. I would like this. There we go. This is what I would like. So essentially what I've changed is that the data that we got, I wanted to get results. And then the result list is going to be our options, okay, that we're going to get in selected HTML. So to make it easy, so we see what's actually going on, which one do we not need anymore? We don't need this anymore. So essentially what I'm saying is, let's say I go here and I type Thor, add movie. It's showing me the list, right? Let me see, what's it showing there? Okay, so yeah, so why I said result list is because we have this dictionary, and for me to get what I want, I have to enter this key. Okay, I have to enter this key. So I've entered this key. We got this key only to get into this list. All right, that's it. Okay, now we're in selected HTML. Now we want to display every movie. And this is quite an important lesson. So you may need to pause the video a bit and pay attention. Now we're going to use the power of template rendering. So essentially what's going to happen is the user is going to be faced with an option of selecting a movie, right? And the movie is going to be A tags. They're going to be links that the movie is going to click. So it's going to be the movie title, and then it's going to be the release date. Okay, so template rendering is us repeating the same thing dynamically, the same HTML dynamically without having to type it all over and over again. And this is the power of Ginger. So essentially we've passed in options. Yeah, we've passed in options. So we're going to now use template rendering and say, oh dear, come on. This is why I prefer VS Code sometimes. We're going to say, yeah, exactly. We're going to say for movie in options. Okay, now remember in Ginger 2, you need to end the for loop. So essentially we said for movie in options, do this. Okay, for movie in options, do this. Now what it must do now is have, so we said it's going to be an anchor tag. So we're going to now include the Ginger that we want to be included here. So we're going to say URL underscore for URL for actually let's leave it empty for now. So essentially we're going to say, okay, so we want the movie title and movie date. Yeah, so we want to say movie dot title. Let's just leave it like this for now. Movie dot title, and we want this to also have movie dot release date. Okay, so what I mean by this is when the user clicks add movie and they're going to type in a movie that has a lot of options, right? So let's just say Spider-Man. You know there are lots of Spider-Mans. So to get all these options, I didn't have to type all the p tags at all. It just used the for loop for the options which are in this list. There we go. However, when you click it, it's not going to take us anywhere yet. Okay, it's going to take us nowhere really. Okay, and that's fine. All right, where were we? We were looking at after we've added the movie. All right. Okay, now what we want to do is we want when the user click here, we want the URL for find movie to pass us. We want to get the movie ID. In fact, we want to get the movie ID from whatever they click. And essentially to do this, we're going to use we're going to get the URL ID, and then we're going to pass find movie. All right. Now find movie is an endpoint that we have made in app.py. In our app.py, let's get rid of HTML. In our app.py, after the user has clicked this, we're going to get the movie ID. And the movie ID is going to be passed into find movie since it's already here. And then we're going to then interact with the API, which I shall not be doing for now for the sake of time. And once we've interacted with the API, we're then going to get the data. We're going to get the original title, the release date, the overview, and the image, okay, which are parameters that we had stated we were going to get here. Selects movie from result list and passes in movie ID, and then we're going to get the title, year, description, and image URL, okay, which is essentially all this. Title, year, description, image URL. And this is what's going to be put into our database and then committed. And then we can also print it out just to see. Let's try that. So as it stands, my database has nothing. Refresh it. Absolutely empty. However, once I interact with this, I'm going to add a movie. I'm going to put in Spider-Man. Once again, Homecoming. I did enjoy that. Let me have a look. Now we're going to, so that error that I encountered was essentially being caused by this. So once we've committed into this, it's supposed to redirect me to this endpoint. Let's see. Edit, yeah. Essentially, it's supposed to redirect into this endpoint called edit here that we see, which is where I'm going to add my rating. Okay, redirects to edit, and it's going to give me edits to HTML, but it seems like edit to HTML interacts with a form. So I need to create a form before even rendering it, otherwise I'm going to encounter an error. So let's start off by creating the form. So essentially we already know that for these forms, to save us time, we're just going to import Flask.bootstrap here, put that here, and then the form we already know. This is how we're just going to get a quick form. Boom, that's the form. But that's not where it ends. We also have to interact with our forms.py. Our forms.py over here. So now, yeah, exactly. I want, and then we're going to interact with our form like so. Where we have the rating, the text area field, and a submit field. Okay, pretty much all we wanted there. Okay, so we've made a rough outline of our form, pretty much. Now let's go to our app.py. So now we need to import it also. We're going to say, so we said find movie form. We also now to import rate movie form. So now we go to our new route that I've made. Pardon me for not announcing this. So I said app.route edit. This is where I'm going to be rating my movies and editing a few things so I could get other parameters, the other two parameters here, where the user is going to fill and submit the form and then get the movie rating. Okay, so let's do that. So essentially I've said form, let's go to rate form, the rate form class, movie ID, we're going to get the ID, and then we're going to get this is actually called, pardon me if let me see the other arguments. This is the entity, if I'm not mistaken. Entity, that's the identifier, I think. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to say, once this has been rendered, we're going to get edit.html. I'm going to pass in the movie that they'll have selected, right? It's already in the air, the movie that they'll have selected with the ID, and then the form also, okay? This will only come into play once they've submitted the form. So let's see that in action. Is it in action? What's going on here? Let me delete you. Well, turns out I can't delete you. Only added it. Oh, I didn't demonstrate that it worked that time. There, Spider-Man. Anyway, what movie? I don't know. Thor. Not sure. Maybe Thor. I don't know. Thor Ragnarok. There we go. So that's what's happening. However, nothing's going to happen if I submit my form. So let's do something about that. So let's say if form.validator submit movie.rating, I'm going to get a float, a review, session commit. This is going to be a float. This is going to be here. Okay. And that's what's going to trigger this reaction where if I say 1, it was boring. There we go. Okay. Wonder why I didn't add this time. Let me have a look. Right, I figured out why it didn't add. It's in the database. However, it's not showing on my index.html. And why is that? Well, essentially, it's because in my index.html, there's nothing that's triggering that. Nothing is triggering anything that I've entered. If you look at the example that we have, drive. However, my database is saying Spider-Man. Let me show you. I need to make this bigger. I'll make this bigger. It's saying Spider-Man Homecoming, not drive. Now what's happening? Essentially, what we ought to do now is to, let me just minimize this. Essentially, what we ought to do now is pass in the movies. So in our app.py, actually, let me put them side by side. I'm going to move this to this side so that you can see what's happening. This is my index.html. So in my index.html, sorry. Sorry. In my index.html, pardon me, folks. I had not yet passed in the movies list, okay? Now, before I pass in the movies list, I do want to stress out that I would like them. So I was saying I did not specify that I would like my movies to be displayed. Essentially, I didn't pass them into index.html. So, well, what I want to say is result db.session before we use order by. Let's just why to keep it up that and say all movies. No, that's not what we want. So we want to pass this into our index.html. So we're going to say, yeah, movies got all movies. So now for that card that wasn't showing any result, right? This one, you see it? We're going to say, let's just indent this. Okay, why is it frozen? Let's indent this for movies and movie and 4. Okay, so that it can make as many as I like. Now, all this, we're going to put in values. So for instance, so what do we say? For movie in movie. So we're going to say movie. What attribute do we have in our movie? We have the title. This is the year. So we're going to say movie dot title, movie dot year. Okay. Now I'm going to fast forward this, as this is just all filling in. All right, so I filled in all the variables. So we've said movie ranking, and then the background image is going to be image.url. Where am I getting all this from? You may be wondering. I'm getting all this from my models. Yeah, my models. These are all the variables that are within my models: the title, the year, the description, the rating, the ranking, the review, and the image URL. Or you can also have a look at your database. Okay, that's essentially what I've put in here. All right, so now that we've done this, why is it doing this? Error. Now, if there's one functionality that we haven't done yet, is the delete function. So we've added, right, edited, we have searched, but we have not yet deleted. Very important feature, very easy to implement. We're going to say at app.root. Yeah, there we go. Delete. That's what we need. Delete underscore movie ID request ID. Yeah. So essentially, what we're going to be doing here is that we're going to get the ID that will have been selected, and then we're going to get 0404 the entity, the identity of from the entity movie, and from the identity the movie ID, and then we're going to get the session to delete, and then we're going to commit that, and then we're going to redirect to home. Now all this comes into our home page here, these two. However, at the moment they're not working. Look, they're not working. So we now need to update those. So we go down here and then put in the URL for identity also, yeah, and that's it. Now once we rerun this app, it should show us the movies that we have. So have a look. Now if I want to have a look, this actually matches with my database. If I want to add more, I can actually add another movie here. I am not sure. I feel like adding, no. I don't know, Smurfs. I don't know, I'm not very original with this. Legend of the Smurfs. Rating, I'm going to say 2. Meh. That's it. Let's see. Smurfs is down there. And we actually delete. If we delete this, it's been deleted. That's it. We can actually delete all of them. And have a look. Gone. Okay. And that's how we create the simple CRUD application. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that.